Okay. Good morning, world. How are we today? Okay. I don't know if this one's going to be incredibly long, but I was just listening to a video. It was like advertised in my Google News, so I clicked on it and it took me to a YouTube video by John Anderson Media, and he had a woman speaking on the show, and I apologise, I didn't catch her name or her job title, but what they were talking about was actually something that I was talking about with my oldest daughter the other day. And I just thought that is actually a topic that I have wanted to speak on, so we're going to touch on that now this morning. And look, she had all the correct, neurological terminology and all this sort of stuff, but I'm going to speak about it in a layman's terms way, okay? So the conversation I was having with my daughter the other day was in regards to, she sometimes makes comments about that, she would be too shy to do this or that, okay? So like even with, in recent months, we set her up a bank account and, ordered her a bank card and all that. And she was very nervous to, because of her age, because she's 16, she had to deal with the lady at the bank, and she had to stand there and set up the banking app information and password and all lots of stuff, and and then when she got the card in the mail, she had money on there because I'd been putting money in for her, and she was too nervous to use it because she was so worried that she hadn't activated the card properly. And just sometimes we joke about her being unnecessarily shy or nervous about things, and it's mostly to do with in public, being in front of other people, and even though she's got a great bunch of girlfriends, she doesn't have problems at school socially or anything like that. She's even got male friends, she hasn't dated and stuff, but she has a great group of friends, and it's not like she's a shell of a person or anything like that. I wouldn't say she was anywhere close to that. But anyway, and so when we were talking the other day, I was saying that it probably has something to do with the fact that when she was a baby, I had to return to work, when she was, I want to say between 6 and 12 months old, I feel like it was. Anyway, she was very young, and it was very distressing to me to go through that as well, because I had to, get ready very early in the morning, before the sun was even up, and then I had to have her at her daycare place by 6:30 in the morning, so that I had the time to drive to the city for the job that I had at that point in time. And she would just scream, she would just cry, scream. She did not want for me to leave her at all. And to be honest as well, she hadn't even really been babysat. Like, there was one time she was babysat by her grandparents, and during that time, that was actually so that I could go out for my birthday, and never again did I ever do it, because when I had returned, I was told that she was like refusing to eat or drink anything, and you know, she just looked so sad. You know, when I saw her face, she just looked so sad. And you know, she was like 1.5 then. But anyway, and yeah, I could never ever put her through that again. But yeah, with the daycare thing, you know, she would cry and cry, and the ladies that worked there would send me a text message and say, don't worry, Christy, you know, she's all good now, you know, she's stopped crying, she's fine. And I feel like they were even like lying a bit to me, just to make it that I wouldn't worry so much, and I don't know, quit my job and just stay at home with her, you know, to not put her through that. You know, at the time, like with her father, I didn't really have the financial ability to stay at home though. You know, it was just, I needed to work, and yeah, I always have regretted that. Like, I've always regretted just not, I don't know, finding another way to go around that, because yeah, it broke my heart so much. And then, like, her maternal child health nurse would say to me, in regards to all that oh, she had separation anxiety. You know, oh, it's very normal. Oh, you know, some children have separation anxiety from their parents, you know, when they leave them at daycare or babysat, you know, things like that. And so it was like normalized, right? It was normalized to me by childcare workers and by maternal child health nurse. And so everybody kind of just makes these comments to you to normalize it, and to make you not feel bad, and all this sort of stuff, right? And so that, you know, I feel like it's to encourage mothers still to leave their child at daycares as well and go off to work. You know, those daycare places make more money if you know, mums are returning back to work. You know, of course the government earns more money off of you going and earning tax dollars for them. You know, so there is an incentive, isn't there, for mums to be encouraged to leave their babies in the hands of other people and go return to work, let alone any financial pressures, whatever. So that's how it was normalised to me, all right? And that's case one. Okay, case two with my second daughter is, you know, I had a terrible time with her every single night. Now, her father wouldn't allow me to co-sleep with her in the bed, and he also put up lots of complaints about her being in a bassinet next to my side of the bed, and didn't want her in the room, and wanted her, you know, pretty much from day one, he wanted her to be in her own room. And he would say that it was because, you know, he would get woken up through the night from her crying and stuff. And he could have slept in the spare room down the other end of the house, by the way. There was other places he could have slept. But anyway, I was forced with her from a very young age, basically, to ship her off to her own bedroom. And I had, you know, baby monitors, and I had night lights and all that sort of stuff to try to make it, you know, as good as I could for her, you know, soothing music, all that. And I still ended up having to spend a majority of the night in her room with her, either, you know, feeding her, or, you know, rocking her, walking around with her, or even, you know, once I would get her back into her cot, you know, I would lay on the carpeted floor next to the cot with my hand up through the rails, holding her hand, so she didn't feel alone. And I get upset thinking about that, because, you know, again, I hate that there is like things that's like my children when they were babies didn't get necessarily the love and comfort from me that they could have, that they should have. And really it was because of external factors, you know. I remember at one point with her that one of my girlfriends was telling me that her other friend was a midwife and a, you know, sort of like a child health nurse, and dealt a lot with mums with their new babies and stuff, and with sleep problems, you know, because I was just awake most of the night with my baby, and yeah, having a really hard time. And anyway, she had you know, gotten like a plan thing, detailed, like written up in a PDF from her friend, to give to me, that was about sleep training and how to train your baby to wake less, soothe themselves, and if they do wake, to not even cry for you, and just to soothe themselves back to sleep and all this sort of stuff. And okay, so this is my second child, okay, and I was like, oh, okay, a professional person that deals with babies, you know, giving me this advice, all right, I'll take it, you know, and I'll do what she says, you know. Anyway, so I'm like I've read through the instructions and everything, and basically it is dragging out your response time to your baby, to make it longer and longer and longer and longer, by minutes, right? So maybe you respond within 1 minute to your baby initially, and then the next time that they cry for you after you've left them alone in their room, in their bed, you know, then you take 2 minutes to respond, and you know, all these sort of things, right? You can imagine it drags out longer and longer. And I cannot tell you how torturous that was for my heart, for my soul, to do that to my baby. And you know, I'm just standing there in the hallway waiting, watching a clock, watching my watch, you know, till it's been enough minutes for me to respond to my baby, you know. And it was, you know, a while later that I started to think to myself privately, you know, this is ridiculous. How are they telling mothers to do this? You know, you're tell me this is not causing like some sort of like psychological problems for the baby, you know, because essentially what you're doing is you're training your baby to think that mummy is not going to come. I might as well give up on trying. I might as well not call for my mother because she's not going to come. Because that's what babies think as well, you know. If they can't hear your voice and if they can't see you, they think you've like left them forever. That's what they're worried about. That's what they think. It stresses them out, you know, like you're never coming back again. And I've heard this, you know, time and time again about, oh, you've just got to say to your baby, you know, mummy's going to the shops, you're going to stay with grandma, I'll be back later, and instead of sneaking off. And then when you come back, you say, see, mummy came back, but they've already gone through the trauma while you were gone. They've already gone through the trauma of, oh my God, my mum has left me forever. They've already gone through that. Okay, and by the time you get back there, they're like mentally and emotionally exhausted. They'll probably just look at you like, yay. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, this thing that I came across this morning with this lady, she's like, obviously a well-educated lady, probably in like the neurological sciences. And, she was saying from her educated position that, daycares are terrible for children and detrimental to, their development, their mental development. And that here we are in life, we're trying to teach our babies, our children, to either trust us and their environment or to distrust us and the environment. And that's why it's so important, skin on skin. That's why it's so important to be there for your baby all the time, where they can hear your voice and they can see you, and to minimize as absolutely most as you can the amount of time that you are separated from them, because they are not able, like other animals that are born, they're not capable of anything. You have to take care of everything for them. They cannot even handle their emotions, their cortisol levels, and it is not good for them to experience high cortisol levels, and it actually makes them develop what was it that she said? It's like how they describe people who are like narcissists and stuff. Basically it makes them have like a much different protective shell than what we intend to help our children develop. And so they can grow up, right? So say they've had a very broken trust situation as a baby, because you've left them at daycares and things like that, and you've trained them, oh, mummy's not going to respond, mummy's not coming, then you've trained them to believe that they shouldn't trust the environment, and you are their predominant environment. So they've been trained by you then not to trust the world, not to trust their environment, and that they're here all by themselves, basically. And we expect even of small children, toddlers and things, we expect them to be capable of doing a lot more and controlling themselves a lot more than what they actually are, like where their development is at, where their brain functioning is at. For like a thing I read once in a parenting book years ago was, like a child, let's just say your child is like 5 years old, right? They've been asleep for probably more than half of their life. And in that time that they've been awake, they've had to learn, they've had to learn language. They've had to learn facial expressions and body language. They've had to learn how to use different functioning of their bodies and control and motor skills and all that. They've had to learn about their environment and who's in it, and how other people are behaving, and what they're doing with their bodies and voices and all that sort of stuff. They've had to, as they get older, they've had to learn like particular rules and things that are considered safe or danger. They've had to learn so much, how to walk, how to, crawl, how to walk, how to pull themselves up. I mean, how to use different toys and things, like so much, so much. um, you know, and we expect a lot of them, don't we? It's like, oh, by a particular age, your child should be doing this. Even through the maternal child health nurses, you've got a whole book that you get given at birth that says, oh, by the time your child is 6 months old, they should be doing this. Oh, by the time they're 10 months old, they should be doing this. If they're not doing this, you need to consult your doctor because there could be a problem. And while I do understand that there are particular things that might, yes, be a problem, but I'm saying that, where are the days where we are also talking out loud about the fact that children, reach different milestones in development um, in their own pace, in their own pace. We shouldn't be comparing our babies with each other either, of what your baby is doing versus what my baby is doing, and all this sort of culture. That's so stupid. Um, but yeah, the video that I watched this morning was interesting to me because, she was pointing out that if you've kind of broken their trust as a baby, you can look at them 20 years later and they will have, like social anxieties or mistrust towards government, mistrust towards other people, have a hard time in relationships and things. And that, she was saying, the Australian, policymakers and things should really be looking into this research. And we really actually should be promoting mothers to be stay at home, at least until their child is starting school, because that time is so much development happening, and you are really a bit of a fool if you think that your special little baby is getting all of that love and nurturing and attention in a daycare when those daycare people are allocated like 5 children each in a room to look after, and you've got children slipping over and hurting themselves, you've got children needing to go to the toilet or get their bums changed, you've got activities being set up and packed up, and all sorts of things, all sorts of chaos and things being monitored and whatnot. Your baby is not getting the same attention as they would if you were at home with them, giving them that one-on-one attention yourself, And yes, I do understand, as I pointed out, in my own personal life, sometimes there are financial factors that, make you have to feel like you have to go back to work anyway. We really should be looking into what payments are available to assist families with this, and the government should do more to make sure that parents can be there for their own babies, be there for their own children, and not have to financially suffer and struggle in life because of that. Obviously the government wants us to keep reproducing, don't they? They want us to keep the growth of the population up. So don't punish families then, don't punish mums then who choose to stay at home. Don't make it so hard either, through Services Australia and stuff, for that process. Like I've said before, with all their documents and being on hold for 10 hours and, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot. Anyway, yeah, that's my hot take this morning. And I am very grateful that for my last 3 babies, that I have been able to be a stay-at-home mum, and that I've been able to have that skin on skin. I've been able to have that bond, and that they know that, you know, mummy is always there. And I think that it will make a difference. I think it does raise little humans, little children that are more confident in themselves and in the world that they find themselves in. I mean, it just makes sense, doesn't it? You know, it's like, I feel like even without studying, you know, neurological, you know, this and that and whatever, brain development, even without doing any of those sort of studies, it sort of seems like basic stuff that everybody would know anyway. You know what I mean? Yeah, anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again soon.